Dink.
I have one job
We
doing this ship. It's stupid, but I'm going to do it.
and speaking of that, we're live.
Probably one of our best starts yet. That's excellent.
That's right.
Oh, people on the YouTubes, they get to see this. People
Lucky
that
them.
listen to the podcast, I trim this part out. Well, actually, I'm not even recording yet, so I don't have to trim. There's no trimming. It's a completely trimless
No
podcast.
trimification.
No trimification. It was not trimified.
So it's uncut.
Ooh.
And okay,
On the tubes, on the Jew-tubes,
on the tubes.
yes.
But the podcast is trimalicious.
Uncut and uncensored. Just,
Just because.
that's the way we are. That's the way we roll.
Right.
Okay. Wits End, you're kicking it off.
Kicking away.
I'm going to hit record and start the music. And the ones and the twos.
Loving the music. Loving it. It's time for Caching the Northwest, and welcome to the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the Great Pacific Northwest. We will talk about caches and cachers unique to this little corner of the country. So grab those Oregon caches before they vanish. It's time to go caching in the Northwest.
In order to talk about this topic, we need to bring in our tame caching expert. Some say that he can find a 1-1 cache in just under 24 hours. And that for some reason, he's no longer allowed in the state of Nevada. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Hey guys, I'm the hip hopopotamus. Good to be
Ooh.
back home on a Thursday night.
There's a Flight of the Conchords reference.
How you guys doing?
I'm not sure how to follow that up. But you might notice, for those one of you that are watching the video, I'm in a place a little different than normal. My backdrop's not here. I'm in another Washington. This Washington's not a state. You know what that is?
I
Why I'm
have.
here, or why it's not a state?
Well, we know why you're there, but I have never quite been sure why DC is not a state, so educate me.
Actually, it's a United States classified secret. I can't tell a Canadian that.
All right, Google.
You can't Google in Canada, can you?
It's all about neutrality. Nobody wants to have the nation's capital in one state would give them, more reason to gloat than other states. Actually, back in 1790, Congress passed the Residence Act, which approved the creation of a national capital on the Potomac River. The exact location was to be selected by President George Washington, who signed the bill into law on July 16th. It was formed from land donated by the states of Maryland and Virginia. So the initial shape of the federal district was a square measuring 10 miles on each side, totaling 100 square miles. It's set on the diagonal, so it looks like a diamond. And actually, most of the land in Virginia has gone back to Virginia, so it's no longer that pure 10-sided square, which is a little disappointing, actually. But the whole idea was that no one state could claim that they were the capital of the country. It's on a neutral ground.
That's quite interesting. That's probably pretty unique to the U.S.
I think so. George Washington, when he was president, was so popular that the people wanted him to be their king. And he said no, he didn't want. They left a monarchy, and he didn't feel he should be a monarch. He wanted the power of the government to be with the people, so he declined that and said that he would be president. And he was so popular, even though this was just called the federal city back when it started, that it became known as Washington.
Interesting.
Yeah, after Christopher Columbus. That's where the Columbia came from.
Huh.
So there you go.
That Christopher Columbus sure had a good first name, I'll tell you that. So George Washington and his wooden teeth were very popular, huh?
Very, very popular. Yeah, you learned a lot back here. I'm back here on another 8th grade school field trip, history trip, as a
Oh,
chaperone. This is one of the,
I was going to say, you're still in the 8th grade?
yeah. No,
Is it
I
5
did
or 6
graduate.
years now?
I did graduate, but 8th grade was the best 3 years of my life. So
Oh, boy. Hey, gentlemen, I'm going to pull us back onto topic, which I rarely do, but, why
wow.
not? Hey, we've got a couple of topics we want to cover tonight. First off, are virtual caches, and the second is the Bureau of Land Management in Oregon. So let's start off with virtual caches. And geocaching.com stats page says that I've found 25 of them little guys. Land Monkey, what about you?
I also have found 25 virtual caches, sir. Wits End, how about you?
Well, not to brag, but I have found a whopping 28. So I guess I'm more qualified to speak. I don't know on this. It's actually really impressive that we found that many at all, since there just aren't that many out there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But many of mine are Disney related, because you just couldn't put a real cache in Disneyland. And most of them, actually, when I was looking back over the list, are right back here on the east coast of our great nation.
I've heard that Washington, D.C. is just loaded with virtual caches. Is that a fact?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, physical caches would be very difficult to place here, like in the mall or around the Capitol, the White House. For some reason, go figure, security is really tight back here in a lot of places. And, I wouldn't want to be caught placing a cache or seeking a cache, really, in some of the places around here. It's just not a good plan.
That seems fair. So, Wits End, if one were to travel to DC, what would you say would be the must-do virtual cache?
Well, that's really easy, because it's what everyone happens to be wherever you are. To be honest with you, and what else would I be but honest, really? The only times I've been back here is chaperoning student field trips, and as a result, my focus is on the students that parents paying tuition are wanting me to look after. So I've had very little time on my own to go and geocache. So I really haven't been able to go out on just a geocaching expedition here. I've really had to look at whatever cache happened to be where I was when I had an extra 20 minutes at lunch or something. So
Right.
I haven't ranked them, but they're all great. How can you go wrong?
Exactly. I think just simply walking up and down the mall and grabbing the caches there would be a great plan.
Yep.
So my son will
There's
be
so
in
much to
8th grade
see
next
here,
year.
There you go. You got to come back and grab some.
Yeah,
And,
that's what I was
see the
thinking.
nation's capitals, see the historic sites, and grab a few caches while you're here.
Yeah.
How can that
Now,
hurt, right?
you're doing some major sightseeing. I mean, it's all planned out for you, but you're jumping on a bus and hitting 4 and 5 different sites a day.
Yeah. And really, there's no way, I don't think, that you could do as many things in a day as we do here. It's great to have a tour guide and a seasoned bus driver that knows the city like the back of their hand and take you right where we need to go. And our tour guide has been doing this so long that she's got all the schedules down. I can't tell you how many times this week that we have arrived 10 minutes before a wave of 5 or 6 groups, tour buses pulling behind us. Yeah, that's really cool.
Nice.
Experience really pays off on something like that.
Nice.
But anyway, back on the West Coast, in the Great Pacific Northwest,
Which
we go caching.
kind of why we have this show. Yeah, just saying.
I'm not currently there, but as you know, my heart is there. And last week when I was there, we promised to talk about Oregon's move to remove some geocaches from BLM managed lands. That's, as you mentioned, the Bureau of Land Management, not a burrito less meat. KTVZ.com reports the Bureau of Land Management's Prineville District Office. They said Friday it will work with the local geocaching community to remove about 84 geocaches, that's 7 dozen in Canadian, located in the Oregon Badlands Wilderness and other wilderness study areas. And of those, 47 of them are going to be removed permanently, gone, zippo, never to be seen again. And 37 will be closed seasonally because they are located in sites closed part of the year to protect wildlife or other resources. The geocaches in the Oregon Badlands Wilderness are very popular because of their proximity to Bend. That's a city, for those of you that aren't familiar with the area. And they can be so heavily used that trails are actually created, as we all know. Lovingly called geo trails, right? It's important to get the word out. This is a quote from Molly Brown, field manager for the Prineville BLM. She says it's important to get the word out about where geocaches should and shouldn't be placed, because some sites are not designed to handle the type of concentrated use brought on by geocaching. The great news is that once the groups know about the restrictions, they're very responsive and responsible. So hats off and applause to NorthWest geocachers for being responsive and responsible. She adds, we're grateful for the cooperation. Prineville began identifying geocaching limits in 2005 with the Upper Deschutes Resource Management Plan that provides management direction for BLM administered lands in Crook, Deschutes, and northern Klamath counties.
And really good job pronouncing those words, those Native American words, which we see all the time here in the Northwest.
Yeah, I may be on a 3-hour time shift, but I can still do some things right.
The article goes on to say, in 2012, BLM policy prohibited physical geocaches in wilderness areas while still allowing virtual geocaches. Removal of these geocaches will bring the Prineville BLM into compliance with national policy to protect sensitive sites, agency officials said. Geocaching is absolutely a legitimate use of public land, but it's inappropriate in wilderness areas, says Carol Benkoski, Prineville BLM district manager. Most times when the public is setting up a site, they're unaware that they might be putting it in a closed or sensitive area, Benkoski said. We rely on the geocaching community to help us spread the word and educate fellow geocachers. The BLM manages more than 245 million acres of public land. That's about, 1/10 of Canada. And most of any federal agency, the land known as the National System of Public Lands is primarily located in 12 western states, including Alaska. The BLM's mission is to manage and conserve public lands for the use of the enjoyment of present and future generations under the mandate of multiple use and sustained yield. In fiscal year 2013, the BLM generated $4.7 billion in receipts from the public lands. And of course, I'll have a link to the article in the show notes, which, I know you all go and read the show notes. So,
I do.
Yeah. Gentlemen, do you think the BLM will lose some of that $4.7 billion in revenue since cachers won't be using it as much?
I gotta wonder, with a number like 4.7 billion, how much of that is related to mineral extraction or oil, or
that could be.
That's an awful lot of money.
This is 4.7 billion in receipts from public land. So I don't know.
Oh, that's a lot of receipts to do at the end of the tax year.
Well, they just throw it into a shoebox and hand it to an accountant. That's what everybody does with receipts.
Pretty much. I don't know. It depends. How much traffic do you really think is generated by caching activities that are dedicated caching activities? When I've been on camping on BLM land and places like that, I go caching while I'm there, but I haven't gone there just to geocache. I know people do. I'm not saying but I'd be curious to see how much of their volume is just geocachers.
Yeah, and I doubt they'll ever be able to break that down. I mean, they're going to have day use, they're going to have camping, they're going to have different areas. Right. But you know,
Yeah.
and I completely understand. We've all been to geocaches where we walk up and go, oh, look, follow that trail. I bet that leads right to the geocache, because it's been, just pummeled by the number of people going back and forth across this path. And I completely understand that. It makes me wonder if some of these geocaches, and it sounds this way from the article, were placed without BLM approval.
Yeah, you have to wonder that. I'm not sure. I haven't taken a look to see which caches specifically these are that they're looking at. I guess I didn't put the GC codes in the articles, but
Yeah. No, I could have, but I decided not to. Just, well, for number one, there's 84 of them, and I wasn't exactly sure which ones were involved or not. But is it a drastic step? Probably.
Yeah, you gotta wonder though. Like, again, because I'm a little bit ignorant as to where specifically these caches are.
Mm-hmm.
If they're worried about trails getting created and the traffic being that high, I got to think they're not that deep into the wilderness management areas.
That could be.
Yeah.
Now, when we did our Power
Yeah,
Trail
it's hard to say.
episode a few episodes back, one of the areas I talked about was Prineville. There's a whole bunch of geocaches that form triangles out there. What I want to say, 230 some odd triangles full of geocaches, which I look at and go, wow, when you look at the map, that's really impressive. Now, I don't know if those are on BLM land, and I don't want to say that they are. So, but I'm saying if it's something like that, that could create a lot of traffic out there that, the BLM wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's great that she comments in here that they have found geocaches to be responsive and responsible, and I think as a general rule they are. And if there's a legitimate concern, we all want to preserve the natural resources. None of us want to abuse any of that. If we trash the place too bad, they'll stop allowing any geocaches there. We don't want that at all.
Exactly.
And I guess, go ahead.
No, you please.
I was just going to say, and I guess that's why we have guidelines and we have organizations or bodies that represent the geocachers as well as the land management groups.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think this really speaks well of geocachers. The fact that they say, okay, you know what? There's some caches here that are in areas we don't want them in, so let's remove them. But they're not banning all geocaches from all BLM lands.
True.
So that's not that quick knee-jerk reaction of, oh, this is bad, all gone. I think it shows that the BLM has been working either with a local caching community or a few well-spoken individuals and allowed them to say, hey, you know what, we need to get rid of these 47, but these 37 can stay around seasonally.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
sounds like they're really doing a good job with how they're doing it.
Agreed.
And as you mentioned, I wouldn't be a bit surprised, not pointing any fingers or blaming anybody, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised if at least some of these caches were placed without BLM permission. I know when I was first starting out, I didn't think anything of it. I'll just take a piece of Tupperware, go out in the woods and stick it under a bush and log it online. And, I never would have thought about it. Once I learned a little more and got a little more seasoned and read a little deeper into the guidelines, thought, oh, maybe that just wasn't such a great idea.
I think that's common with new cache owners. I would fall into the same boat when I went and placed my first cache as well. What I wasn't thinking about was the impact to the area of people coming and looking. I was looking at it like this is a good place to hide something. So I think that's a really important point if folks are listening and they haven't hid their first cache yet, is to think about, even if it is an area where you're allowed to place a cache, but just think about what's going to happen when 20 or 30 people come looking in the next week for that geocache you just placed, and what's going to happen to the area where it's in.
Yeah, when the first to find feeding frenzy hits.
Exactly. And for you, you're going to walk right up to it and say, I knew I hid the cache here. But, somebody like the three of us are going to go out, tromp around quite a large area until one of us says, oh, found it.
Kind of like
Which you
Brontosaurus
live
is
by the way.
grazing or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like a herd of buffalo coming through. Hey, that is how we
It's like a
cache together.
rhinoceros. It's like a rhinoceros stepping at a campfire.
A rhinoceros?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, I found a couple of great pages about general guidelines for cache hides in Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. Now, the Washington page by far is the most detailed, and I'll take pride in that. I had nothing to do with it, but, it's my home state. It shows which areas are managed by who and a decent guideline for cache hiding. And as always, these links will be in the show notes. And they're all from the Groundspeak site. So for the Groundspeak wiki. But
And
like I
Washington
say,
State is the home of geocaching headquarters. So.
yeah, there you go. It shows you Native American managed lands. We don't have the BLM. What do we have here? And now I have to go look. Yeah, Forest Service, National Parks.
DNR, is it the
Yes,
DNR?
DNR.
Do you not resuscitate?
Right. No, you got to let it go.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, it shows private and
Department of
public
Natural
lands.
Resources. Yes.
Excellent. So you've included the link for British Columbia there, so thank you very
Yes.
much.
Hey, you're very welcome.
And I took a look through that page. I had seen that one before. And outside of national parks, which would be the BLM equivalent in Canada, and there are let's try that again. There are actually very few national parks in the southwest of BC. So other than that, Metro Vancouver parks have the most stringent rules for cache placement. There's actually just been some changes in that in the last year. But the city of Surrey is actually listed there as well, and they're very geocache friendly in my experience. They actually have staff who will review and authorize geocache placement. So it does say in the description that you need to get permission, and you need to get I think it was a certificate, or I can't remember the exact terminology, but you basically have to get a PDF document emailed back to you that
Interesting.
approves your cache location, and you see who the approver was from the city of Surrey. It's pretty cool. And I found them to be very reasonable and very expedient to work with.
Very nice.
Yeah. It looks like we've got a little feedback from Wet Coaster. Mind if I read that out, guys?
Please do.
Okay. So Wet Coaster says, I believe that in BC provincial parks and Greater Vancouver regional parks, new caches have to be within 1 meter of a trail to preserve the land. Some older caches are exempt on a case-by-case basis. I can't speak to the BC provincial parks, but that is absolutely true with the Greater Vancouver regional parks. In addition, and that's the same as Metro Vancouver Parks I was mentioning earlier, same organization.
Sure.
In addition, I believe they have a 500-meter rule as well. So normally it's 100. I hope I get my numbers right, but normally it's 162 meters, which is the 500 feet. But in the Metro Van or Greater Vancouver Regional Parks, it's I think the number is 500 meters. It's significantly larger, anyways.
So they're putting more restriction.
Correct. Fewer caches.
Than what geocaching.com suggests.
Correct.
Nice. I completely understand that. I mean, let's use the parks, but let's make it nice, or keep it nice. So, working with various land management organizations or bodies is one of the main purposes of the local geocaching organization. So, in Washington State, we have the WSGA, the Washington State Geocaching Association, and one of the things they're known for is their Going Ape mega event every year right after the block party.
Great event.
Mm-hmm.
In British Columbia, we have the BC, or British Columbia Geocaching Association, and they serve a very similar function. They do work, as far as I know, with on the political side of things. More local to the Metro Vancouver area where we live, there's a less formally organized group known as the Metro Van Geocachers, or mvgeocaching.com. us land monkeys volunteer with that group, and its mandate is far less political, and it's more oriented towards socialization and educational aspects of geocaching.
And, I can say the same thing about the Washington State Geocaching Association. It's not political, but it gives an official organization a face to go speak to these people. And, again, it's very social and educational. So I think you hit it right on the head. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think education is one of the big keys here, because I believe that with very rare exception, nobody really wants to go out and trash our parks and natural areas. And anybody that has violated some of these guidelines and stuff has probably done so in pure ignorance, experience. So if we educate them, and I'm thankful that the groups want to work together and help to educate us and help each other else to prevent these things in the future. Because let's face it, we often, at least I know, we'll place a geocache in a place that we find very lovely, very beautiful, someplace we want to bring people to. And if it's a place we're fond of, the last thing we want is to cause damage to that, or to do something that would cause other people to damage the areas, whether on purpose or by accident. So.
Exactly. Very well said there, Wits End. Yeah, we want to protect what we like. And if the parks are a nice place to be, let's protect them. Now, I will start widening a search radius out of frustration when I can't find a cache. But, I try not to just stomp down everything I see. Well, look, there's a sapling. Let's crush that and move on. But, accidents do happen. I'm not saying they don't, but yeah, try to be considerate of the land that you're on.
Put a nice hiking stick or walking staff in your geocaching arsenal and start poking through the ivy until you hear the Tupperware thump.
Yeah.
It's far less intrusive that way.
Yes, practice at home, thumping Tupperware with a stick, so that when you go out into the woods, you know exactly what sound you're listening for.
In fact, just borrow your wife's Tupperware and go out and put it in the shrubbery out front. She won't mind.
How long have you been married?
This month makes 26 years, actually.
Wow.
Congratulations.
It's incredible considering what you've just done.
It's easy for him to say that. He's on the other side of the country.
Exactly.
I've bought a lot of Tupperware over the years.
All right. So back to the article that you guys read through. It noted that virtual caches were okay in their eyes. So I'm guessing that they're saying they won't remove any earth caches or virtuals in that space. And since virtuals are grandfathered, the only cache type you could possibly place now in the BLM would be an earth cache.
Well, I think you may be right on that, Land Monkey. Although I doubt there's going to be any new caches approved for some time to come. Even with the virtuals, you still got to go to a spot and, or earth caches, look for information. So if that's along a trail and you're using an existing sign, I don't see an issue with that. I mean, you're using the existing trail system that's there. But stay on the trails. Don't walk off the trails. And how many times have we gone geocaching and ended up bushwhacking only to find a trail just on the other side of where the cache is? Go, oh, look, there's that trail. We should have done that. But really, in the state of Washington and Oregon, how are you going to hurt blackberry bushes by stepping on them?
Or stinging nettles.
Yeah, those things need to come up anyway. So I don't know. I think it's interesting though.
Good nettle soup though.
I've heard that, but I'm not really keen to try that. All right.
I'm not going to try that myself. I'll leave that to you. You let me know how it tastes, if you can taste again.
So do we have any closing thoughts or opinions from the East Coast?
Nothing earth-shattering here, but let's all work together and educate each other and educate newcomers and take them under our wings so that we can all treat our public lands responsibly, so we can all enjoy them for many generations to come.
Excellent. Excellent. And
I'm
on
going to
that,
vote for him for mayor.
yes. King.
King, yes. Get some wooden teeth and we'll vote you for king. Can you vote for a king?
I'll take the stage name of Mayor McCheese.
Okay.
Wait, I think that's taken already.
You've got the mustache.
How about Grimace?
There you go.
All right.
Oh,
So should we put a wrap on the evening then?
I think we should call this one a wrap.
All right.
It's already tomorrow over here, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour time difference for our East Coast co-host. Ooh, I like the East Coast co-host. Might use that one again. No,
East
not
Coast
so much.
correspondent?
Yeah.
Sounds like a type of fish. Type of salmon.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
be
I
back-
went and caught me a
I'll be back in the
co-host
West
salmon.
Coast tomorrow night, so
Well, it'll be good to see you.
thank you. It's always nice to be seen.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. You can be part of the show. Call 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, correction, or question any time of the day or night. Of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Visit cachingnw.com for the show notes on this show or more about any other Caching in the Northwest podcasts. Your support helps to keep quality shows coming. If you like this show, please click the PayPal button on the website. This show is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2014, by Chris Umfenauer.
Once again, gentlemen, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Or morning. I almost threw in or morning, but I thought I'd cut it clean there.
Go get yourself some sleep.
Yeah, Wet Coaster gave us a nice link there for the, let's see, BC Canada, BC Parks Explore.
Okay.
Camping ethics. Geocaching policy is at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to stick that over in the show notes.
Awesome.
Yeah, just stick it, will you? Oh wait, that's probably not the way you want to do that.
For our listeners, I apologize. I know Wits End was difficult to hear, but I'll work on that in post and try to bump his levels a bit.
Oh,
You need to get your levels
I've
bumped,
often
buddy.
dreamed of my levels being bumped.
Yeah, you're going up to the next level.
All right, power up.
Awesome. Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
These have been less than ideal conditions, but hey, we got to do what we got to do sometimes. So
Exactly. You were here, and I thought it, for what it was, I thought it went well.
Yeah, Wits End actually, I see the feedback on Google Plus there, but honestly, Wits End, the audio was pretty good for me all night. So I don't know, might just be the way.
Well, it's definitely not the studio sound that
True.
we're used to. See,
It
we
is tinny.
spoiled our audience because we produce such a quality podcast week after week.
well, next time I travel, I will try to remember to pack an external microphone instead of using the cell phone mic. So
Well, and better camera, podcast gear, and your whole studio backdrop.
Yes,
next time I
definitely
travel,
take
I will
that.
try to bring a external microphone to improve the audio.
And not a 4x8 sheet of plywood with stickers on it.
And some lights. Wet Coaster says we should buy you dinner first. At this point, I think it's breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That becomes a whole nother
By the looks of me,
conversation.
I obviously haven't missed very many meals, so
Well, there's that.
yeah, shouldn't be an issue. But... All right, sirs. I enjoyed chatting, but I am going to turn in before I turn into a pumpkin.
All right, we'll call it an early night for tonight.
Have a fantastic weekend and week, and I will look forward to chatting with you next Thursday.
Next
You
Thursday
too, sir.
night.
Safe travels.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Good night.
Night.
Night.